to the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast, the show that helps aging basketball players stay on the court and continue playing basketball or the sport that they love. We talk injuries, rehab, coaching youth sports, pickup game mishaps, and oh yeah, that guy in your court that wants to fight everybody. Our motto is, we don't stop playing because we grow old because we stop playing. Have you ever heard Frank Sinatra's song, New York, New York, at a bar commonly called The Jug?
I have. Busted.
I told you I did my research, man.
Yeah, Colgate admissions the next year was like doubled just because we were in the tournament, because people had never even heard of Colgate. I remember they were like, is toothpaste in the tournament? 7 outdated basketball beliefs to leave behind heading into 2024 or something like that. After like 3 days after posting it, it already had 50,000 views or something, and it was just going kind of bonkers.
The Patriot League preseason player and defensive player of the year in men's basketball is Colgate's Tucker Richardson. The 6'5", 50-year senior guard has started 117 games for the Raiders and won 3 Patriot League titles in 4 years. He's averaging 10.5 points and 3.6 assists per game for his career, and the perimeter threat has 215 three-pointers.
Welcome to the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast. This is your host, Troy Wallace. As usual, recording from the beautiful studios in Omaha, Nebraska. Our guest in this episode is the most statistically decorated basketball player in Colgate history, Tucker Richardson. Now, those are not my words. I took that directly from the Colgate website. And let's just go over. You heard some of the statistics in the cold open on that highlight reel that I ran. Really just an amazing career for Tucker. To give you some highlights, so Patriot League Player of the Year 2022-23, also Defensive Player of the Year 2022-23, Patriot League Scholar Athlete of the Year 2022-23. You can see a pattern developing here. 3-time Patriot League Academic All-Patriot League, 2-time All-Patriot League First Team in 2021-22 and 22-23. And what I think is the most amazing, especially playing at Colgate, which is considered a mid-major in NCAA Division I, he played in 4 NCAA tournaments. So this was a great episode. There's so much to learn. He's in his first year playing professionally over in Finland, and we definitely dig into that. When we recorded, he was in the semifinals of the playoffs in his league in Finland, and tomorrow he actually plays in Game 7 of their final series. So check the show notes or the description if you're looking at it on YouTube to see if they pulled off the win. I am going to try and stream that somehow tomorrow morning. Here are 3 gigantic things you're going to learn in the episode. Number 1, did Tucker ever close down the most famous college bar in Hamilton, New York? That's where Colgate is. What was it like to play in 4 NCAA tournaments? And at the end, he gives his number 1 tip for young players. So other things you're going to love, he gives key points in his development as a youth player, talks about Finland sauna culture. He gives us his recipe for his go-to breakfast as a professional player. If you have a young player, get them in front of this podcast. He is really just a great model for growing up playing basketball, doing it the right way. And if you're a parent who has aspirations for your kid to play at the collegiate level, this is fantastic. So a couple other things. Tucker also has his own YouTube channel. I think it's over 20,000 subscribers. He's had several videos go viral. He talks a lot about playing in Finland and also specifics about how you can develop your youth basketball players and get them to the college level. Just absolutely fantastic. It was a joy to talk to him. We were really excited to have him in the show. So please enjoy this episode with Tucker Richardson. Tucker Richardson, we really appreciate you coming on the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast. We know you are 7 hours ahead of us in Finland playing in your professional career. We really do appreciate you being on the show. People will have heard, the big intro, and there was a lot of stats to go through on that intro. But what we're hoping is just to get things started, you could do maybe a 10,000-foot view of your basketball career over the last 10 to 12 years.
Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, I am 7 hours ahead, like you said, in Finland, where I'm looking out my window and it's actually snowing.
Snow, 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 snow.
Right now in late April. So that's funny. But yeah, so going back, my basketball career has had a lot of kind of turns and detours, and it's been in a lot of different directions. But to start, like, I started playing basketball because my mom was a really good basketball player in high school. She was actually an honorable mention All-American. And my dad was also kind of a basketball coach. He was a teacher and he coached basketball on the side, did some JV coaching and things. So basketball was kind of in the family, but my parents never forced it on me. It was just something that I picked up and grew a passion for it from a young age. And so I loved the game, and I would say starting like my freshman year of high school was when I really got into it and started working really hard and kind of dedicating to it. And so I went to a public high school for 4 years and then ended up doing a 5th year of high school at a prep school in New Jersey called Blair Academy. And there's so much that goes into the story, but basically I got one Division I offer to Colgate University, which is a small liberal arts Division I school in upstate New York. And I also did 5 years there as well because of COVID. I got a 5th year of eligibility and stayed at Colgate. So I had kind of this 10-year plan where most normal kids spend 8 years in high school and college. I had 10 years. But yeah, so then I had a pretty good career at Colgate, ended up winning a lot of games, played in the NCAA tournament 4 times. And then after my 5th year at Colgate, I signed with an agent and wanted to pursue a professional basketball career. And now I find myself in snowy, cold Finland, towards the end of my rookie year. So yeah.
And I've got so many questions for you, but let's talk about the weather first. So just on, preparing for the podcast, I said, I'm just going to check out the weather in Finland to see what that's all about. And we're here in Nebraska, and we don't have the best weather in the world for sure, but we were, I believe, 30 degrees warmer, maybe 35 degrees warmer than what it looks like you were dealing with. And I saw those little icons for big winds, and I was like, oh, man. One time that I'm appreciative of being in Nebraska.
Yeah, it's cold and it's hard because I keep looking back. I'm from New Jersey, and I look back at the weather back home, and it's 65 today or 70 Fahrenheit. And over here, like I said, it's really coming down right now. Snow, which I guess is really rare here this time of year, but that's what we're dealing with right now. So push through.
And we talked a little bit before we pressed record, and we find you in the middle of, is it first round playoffs?
Second round, actually. So
second round,
semifinals. Yep.
Again, we really appreciate you coming on. You said you had a game last night, right?
Yeah, we had a game last night, lost on the road, had actually a pretty bad loss, unfortunately. But, the great thing about playing in a playoff series, which is different from in college where, I went to a small school, so we had to win our conference tournament to get to March Madness. And basically you win or you go home. So you have to win 3 games in a row to go to the tournament. And here it's a best of 7 series. So, one loss isn't going to kill you. You got to regroup and get back and be better the next game.
I've got so many questions about playing in Finland, but I'm going to hold off because I want to go a little bit deeper and earlier in the career.
For sure.
So, I know you said that, your parents didn't necessarily, they both played at a pretty high level, but didn't necessarily force you into it on the basketball side. Was there a particular moment or a grade where you felt you could maybe do this in college? Was this something by 6th grade you kind of felt like this could be a path forward that you're interested in? Was it 7th grade? Did it wait till high school age?
Yeah, so it definitely didn't happen that early. I loved basketball, and I wanted to pursue it in any way I could, I guess, from a young age, but I had no idea what it meant to play in college at any level. And then actually my freshman year of high school, the spring after my high school season, I started training with a guy from New Jersey named Kerry Fodderingham. And that relationship and that connection and just working out with him basically in the gym that whole spring and summer and fall going into my sophomore year, I made a really big jump in my game. I would say I went from being a little bit above average player to a really good player for my grade. And so kind of that sophomore to junior year, which is a really big time for young basketball players in terms of like recruitment and things. That was when I kind of started to figure out, okay, I might actually be good enough to play in college. Of course, I didn't know what level or what school I would go to, but I kind of started having an inkling that I'm definitely better than, most of the guys on my team, most of the guys my age. There's an opportunity here if I really continue to work. And I was kind of blessed to be 6'5", a decent athlete. I would say I'm not a crazy athlete. In high school, I was a pretty decent athlete. So I also had some of those kind of natural gifts as well.
I was visiting my mom a couple weeks ago. She lives in Las Vegas, and going through my little box of memories, things, and there was a card. And where I grew up, they recorded. Now, this is back when everything was on pen and paper. I will age myself. I'm 52. And they recorded your height and weight every year.
Yeah.
I think they did it fall and spring. So it was kind of funny to think back to, like, well, how tall was I? And something you don't think about.
Yeah.
So for you, did you grow early? Were you a late bloomer growth-wise, or?
Yeah, I think my growth was actually a really important part in my journey because I was around 5'10", 5'11" my freshman year of high school, which is pretty tall for a freshman, but not that tall for a basketball player. Which I think was really good because I played a lot of point guard. I was playing point guard, basically until that time. And so the good thing is I didn't grow too early on. I feel like it happens to a lot of kids that grow in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is they're just put under the basket, and they're, forced to be like a big man. And then they end up not growing anymore. But when everybody else catches up, they haven't worked on any guard skills. They haven't developed that perimeter game that's so important to playing at the next level. So I was lucky that I was like 5'10" my freshman year, playing point guard all the time. And then I grew. I was probably 6'3" my sophomore year, and then 6'4", 6'5" my junior year. So by the time I was tall, which is all relative, like in college, I wasn't that tall of a player, but in high school, I was pretty tall. But by the time I was 6'5", I had been playing point guard or shooting guard my entire life. So that was, I think, really helpful to my development and really put me on a path to playing at the next level where you need to be able to, shooting the ball is such an important skill. I had been working on my shot already for years. It's not like I ever played under the basket. So that was really important, I think, for my development as well.
Just to defend all the coaches out there, it's really hard not to put a tall player underneath the basket when they're in 5th and 6th grade. But all the coaches out there, you got to do it. I had a tall player on my team this year, which definitely helped. But we played a 5 out, and he would keep sucking into the post. I was like, nope, I want you to be able to shoot the ball, move without the ball. So this is what we're doing this year. Boy, it was tempting.
More youth coaches need to be doing that. That's, I think, a big thing I see with younger players is getting just put under the basket, and then they don't grow anymore. And then they're kind of screwed when they get older. So I think the way you're doing it, keep doing that. And I wish more coaches would have that same mentality.
We're going to dig way deep into this a little bit later in the episode, but I do want people to know that Tucker has his own YouTube channel we're going to dig into a little bit later in the podcast, where he's teaching in the lessons of prepping basketball players, youth basketball players, for the next level. So we're definitely going to get into that. But I wanted to mention that early in the podcast. I thought it was interesting that you did a prep year. Was that a prep high school that you did? You did 4 years of regular high school and then did the prep year?
Yeah, exactly. So I did 4 years at my public school, Huntington Central. And the reason for going to prep was that I was getting interest from some Division I schools, some Patriot League and Ivy League schools, but none of them had kind of pulled the trigger on me. They were a little bit worried that I wasn't ready or whatever. I just wasn't quite good enough, basically, to play after my senior year. And so when I decided to do a 5th year, because I knew, I had this interest, I'm like, all right, if I can just get to a really good prep school, and the school I ended up going to, Blair Academy, is kind of well known in the Northeast as one of the best high school basketball teams in general. Actually, Lou Aldang and Charlie Villanueva went there and played for the same coach that I played for, so they have some history. But when I told some of the schools that I was doing a 5th year, they became even more interested in Colgate specifically, decided to offer me for that year after my prep year. So yeah, that was like a really important part of my development as well. And I think they just wanted to see me play at a higher level high school. My public school, we were fine, we were good, but the competition just wasn't as good as it would be at a private school like Blair.
I don't want your birthday out on the internet, but were you?
I was young.
For your
I was young.
Grade, you were young.
Yeah, so I was young. So I graduated high school at 17, and I didn't turn 18 until that summer, when everybody else was already turning 18. So yeah, I was always young for my grade.
It's not really traditional here in the United States, but if you're Great Britain or someplace, like doing a gap year is pretty normal.
Right.
So how do these prep schools, how do you figure out which one to go to? You just find one that has a good basketball program that's close, or are they out there kind of recruiting people?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, especially in the Northeast, prep schools are huge for basketball. So when I knew that it was something I wanted to do, there was 3 schools in New Jersey, three kind of options that I had in New Jersey that were close by. So I didn't want to go somewhere too far. I mean, there's a lot of really good schools in Massachusetts and Connecticut and some of those places, but I wanted to kind of stay closer. And so Blair, Hun, and Petty are the 3 schools. And basically, because I had a really good high school career, they all kind of wanted me. At those in New Jersey, you can only have 2 fifth-year players on the 2 they call it postgraduate players, on each team. So I was one of 2 kids that got to go to Blair. But at some of those other schools in the Northeast, they have teams that are just completely full of postgraduate players. So yeah, it makes for some really competitive basketball, obviously. And I think Blair was the highest level basketball option out of the schools that were available. And my high school coach, Coach Mantegna at Blair, he's kind of just a legend. And I knew he had a ton of connections with colleges and those kind of things. So those were kind of the things that went into that decision. Now,
people on the podcast that are getting familiar with my allegiances, and so I'm a Creighton University grad, and so that's what I follow. So, and Creighton has had a lot of success with bringing prep kids in,
right.
And I don't know what the deal is, but I think a lot of times it's maybe a wink, wink. Hey, we've got a scholarship here for you, but you are going to prep school. That's kind of part of the deal,
definitely.
And then we're going to bring you on.
Definitely, yeah, that definitely happens, and I think now because of the COVID year. So because a lot of guys were coming back for a 5th year, which was taking up more spots in college, even more high school kids were doing a 5th year of high school because they just weren't getting recruited the same way that they were, pre-COVID. So it's probably gotten even more popular since I was in high school.
You said you had the one Division I scholarship. I mean, were there like Division II schools and things that you were considering, or were you kind of dead set on going Division I if you could?
Yeah, so there were a couple of Division II schools. I knew I wanted to go to a high academic school. That was something that was really important to me. And actually, in the Northeast area, there's a lot more high academic Division III schools. So I was getting recruited by some D3s, but I knew that I felt like I was good enough. And because I was getting interest from a lot of kind of Division I schools, not a lot, I would say maybe, 5, 6, 7, something like that. But I kind of knew that was the level I could play at, I guess, if I remember correctly. And again, Colgate was recruiting me pretty hard. Like they really wanted me. They just didn't quite have a spot after my senior year. So once I decided to do that 5th year, I kind of knew that the offer was going to come. And then the other school actually that was recruiting me really hard was Princeton, who is close to my house in New Jersey, only about 30 minutes from where I grew up. So that would have been a really cool spot. Unfortunately, in the Ivy League, they don't give athletic scholarships. So a big reason for going to Colgate was because of that, scholarship opportunity.
Gotta say, 30 minutes from home is a little too close.
I agree. Colgate was 4 hours, so that was kind of a nice happy medium. I could go home if I needed to. My parents could come see games, but I was also far enough away. For sure.
It's much harder to do the parental pop-in.
Yes.
When they've got to drive 4 hours.
Exactly.
So you decided on going to Colgate, and Colgate is a pretty academically rigorous university. What was it like being a student there, trying to juggle, playing, which I see looks like a full-time job, and then juggling being a student at academically rigorous university, which is also a full-time job.
Yeah, so it's interesting because Colgate's a really small school, only about 3,000 kids, which is about the same size as my high school. Luckily, it doesn't feel as small. It didn't feel as small as my high school. It felt kind of like a big school, big campus and stuff. But the thing about going to a small school, a small high academic school, is that the classes are really small. So the professors all know you. It's not like you can get away with showing up to class a couple times a semester like you might be able to if you're at a huge school, I don't know, Ohio State or one of those places.
Right.
At Colgate, especially as a student athlete and a basketball player, you're tall, you're very recognizable. People kind of know you. So that kind of holds you accountable, I would say, is the tricky part. Like you have to show up, you have to do your work, you have to get everything done. The good part about it being a small school, again, is that professors are more likely to understand where you're coming from when you have to miss class because of travel. If you need an extension on something, whatever it might be, like there's a lot that you can that they'll work through, they'll work with you, to get stuff done, to get your work done, because they understand the rigors of being a student athlete. So I was a sociology major at Colgate, which I really enjoyed and I had great classes. It's definitely not like the most difficult major. If I was an econ student or one of those other mathematical type majors, I think I would have had a lot tougher time being a student athlete. But so that's why I say, like, in college, it all kind of depends on what you're studying and what kind of classes you're taking, really. So I think it was overall fairly, I think I was able to navigate that student athlete process fairly easily in terms of getting my work done. Also, we had academic advisor that would check up on us, make sure we were getting our work done. So Colgate really takes care of their student athletes in terms of, getting to classes, getting work done, all those things in a really good way that was able to help me.
I know you're a year out, right?
Yeah, you're out.
Colgate. So hopefully it's fresh enough in your memory. What does, let's say you've got a Wednesday night game, it's a home game.
Mm-hmm.
What does the day look like if you've got classes that day? Is that you're going to class to say, all right, game days, don't worry about it, make it up? Or, what does a game day look like?
Definitely not, don't worry about it. Like you have to show up for class. What they'll do, well, at Colgate, I don't know if it's like this at most schools, but at Colgate, every day there was, I don't know, maybe like an hour block where there were no classes. And so during that time is when we would do our shoot around, which it would be in the middle of the day. So the whole team would get in the gym. We'd get a lot of shots up. We'd kind of go over and scout of the other team, watch a little bit of film maybe. And then if guys had to go directly to class, they would just go straight from there to class. Or if you wanted to get more shots up, whatever it might be, you had time for that. And then after classes, at the end of the day, classes at Colgate always ended at 4. So the last class of the day ended at 4:00. I mean, for a lot of the time at Colgate, I would be done even earlier in the day. So if that was the case, then maybe I would get a nap in or whatever it might be. And then we would have our pregame meal at a local Colgate restaurant, which I miss so much, called the Clubhouse, where we'd have a really good pregame meal as a team around 3:45, something like that. So, if guys had class till 4, they'd be showing up a little bit late, but everybody else would be there eating. And then, yeah, we'd show up for the game at 5:30 and play it at around 7. So it wasn't like you definitely didn't get to skip out on classes if we had a game the same day. I'm sure it's like that at some of those bigger schools, but that's small college life.
All right. Well, I warned you I was going to dig into granular, weird detail about things. So this Clubhouse, could you order anything you wanted? Like, what kind of food was this at the Clubhouse?
No, so it was, they would make, they would make the same food every time for all of us. And you would go up and kind of like a buffet and just take it. But it would be, it was like this chicken, or it was Parmesan chicken. So it wasn't chicken parm, but it was like just really good chicken and pasta and like green beans and pasta sauce, whatever. So it was just like a really nice restaurant that was making us just like this really good food it was buffet style. So you kind of eat as much as you want. And we all loved it. Like it was just, that's one thing I miss so much is the meal on game days is like a big thing for us that, even the guys that have graduated, we always talk about missing that meal for sure.
All right. Well, I like the consistency. I thought maybe if you show up one day and they're throwing out burrito night.
No,
that may not go so well.
You like to know what you're going to get, I think, on game day. Be prepared.
Yeah, I like the routineness.
Exactly.
That is good. So then you've got your meal, and then usually were the 7 o'clock games, 8 o'clock games?
7 o'clock game. So after meal, you probably have an hour to go home and just relax, chill, whatever. Some guys would go directly to the locker room and try and get 30-minute nap in before kind of like the pregame warm-up stuff began around 5:30 usually.
And then get back for shoot around in uniform by 6?
Yeah, so you can get onto the court, or actually you can get onto the court whenever you want, but I would usually get on and start getting shots up at 5:30, and then the team warm up would start around 6. So we'd start our stretching at 6, and then at Colgate we went through this whole elaborate type warm up. It's funny because here on my professional team, we just kind of shoot, do whatever we want, and then we go into the locker room like 45 minutes out from the game, talk, go over the scout or whatever, and then like the 30 minutes before the game is basically just some stretching and then layup lines. It's like very simple here. You kind of, in layup lines, you get whatever shots you want, whatever you want to do. At Colgate, we would do more kind of elaborate shooting breakdowns and some like defensive stuff. Just it was a little bit more, it was a little bit more in depth, which is very interesting.
That's good. I like that. So I'm going to use that. So next time I've got my 5th or 6th grade team doing just layup lines, I'm going to say, hey, this is a professional Finnish warm-up here.
There you go. They keep it simple. And because I think once you become a pro, you kind of know what shots and what stuff you need to work on. So like, all right, we'll just throw you in layup lines. And if you want to take threes the whole time, you can take threes the whole time. I think that's how they think about it.
So game's over. We've got to win. Is it just, remember, it's a Wednesday night. So is it just business as usual, go hit the books, bed?
Yeah. Try and eat. Definitely eat after a game is really important for all you young players out there. And then try and get a good night's sleep. The funny thing is, for road games, which you might want to ask me about too, but I'll just say it. So for road games, let's say we played at, American was a school that was in our conference that's in DC. So if we played at American at 7 p.m., we'd be done for the game at 9. Probably get out of there around 9:30, and that's a 5.5 hour bus trip home. So we'd get back at 3 a.m. and you were expected to go to class the next morning. So if we played them on a Wednesday night and you had, I think classes started at like 9:20 at Colgate. So if you had a 9:20 a.m. class on Thursday morning, right, you're expected to go to class. So it's tough. I mean, that's one of the challenges of being a student athlete, of course, but that's kind of what you sign up for.
Knowing what we know about recovery, I know they can't make exceptions for everybody, but I'm a big sleep guy. I wasn't always in my life, but it's just unbelievable how much of a difference it makes in your life when you've got sleep versus not. You would think they could make a little exception. So if anybody from Colgate, the administration's listening to this.
Yeah, come on, guys. Come on, Colgate. Help
right, a little point of change. At Colgate, I'm going to fast forward to, you guys had a lot of success while you played there, and I know it's maybe not fair, but people in the college coaching industry, players, they look at success as going to the NCAA tournament. And you said you went 4 times.
Yes.
Is that correct?
4 times in 5 years. Yep.
We won't go down all 4 instances, but give me an idea, if you can meld it all together. You want to talk about one particular year, like what is that like from the day you win your conference tournament to going to the destination and getting that game in?
So it was kind of cool because in the Patriot League, our conference final game, which every year I was at Colgate, I played in the conference championship. My sophomore year is the year we lost. And that's actually the year that COVID happened. So there was no NCAA tournament. So I like to say I went to the tournament I went to the tournament every year at Colgate. But yeah, so our conference tournament game was always on, our conference tournament championship game, was always on Wednesday, the Wednesday before Selection Sunday. So that meant we would play on Wednesday, hopefully win. And then it was nice because we had a couple of days off before Selection Sunday. Like we didn't even know who we were going to play. So it was hard to practice and prepare. So we got some time to kind of relax and celebrate a little bit. While other conferences were still playing. I mean, some of those conferences play up until Sunday. They're playing on Sunday, of Selection Sunday. So that was kind of cool. And then obviously we'd find out who we were playing on Sunday, which I'll just list the 4 teams I played. So my freshman year, we played Tennessee. My junior year, we played Arkansas. My senior year, we played Wisconsin. And my 5th year, we played Texas. Lost every time, but had some close games. I'd say 3 out of the 4 were good games. My 5th year against Texas was not so. They were a really good team, but once we found out who we would play, we basically, we'd start to scout immediately. That Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we'd be practicing, and then we'd usually fly out. If we played on Thursday, then we'd fly to wherever the location was on Tuesday, usually on a private plane, which is pretty cool. That was one of the coolest parts of the experience. And yeah, you'd get to whatever city it was and get to work and really try and win that game. We were always, we wanted to win that game. That was the biggest thing. It was like, we won our conference tournament. Okay, job's not finished. We're trying to win that game. Unfortunately, didn't get that done. But every year, I mean, Colgate was in the tournament again this year, lost to Baylor. It's tough for small schools, but I think eventually Colgate will get it done in the next couple of years, hopefully.
People know I'm a Creighton fan, and we were not always a Big East. Power 6 team. Things have changed over the last 10 to 12 years for sure. But that first game of the NCAA tournament, that might as well have been the national championship game. So when Creighton made the tournament, I mean, all eyes were on it. Like that was focusing. If we actually pulled off a win, like that was it. That was pandemonium. Yeah.
I remember, so my freshman year, it was the first time that Colgate had been in the NCAA tournament since Adonal Foyle went there, which was in 1998, 99. They went back to back. And then, there was a 20-year stretch where Colgate never made the tournament. So we played Tennessee my freshman year, and it was crazy. It meant such a big deal to the school. I remember there was some statistic where the Colgate admissions the next year was like doubled just because we were in the tournament, because people had never even heard of Colgate. I remember they were like, is toothpaste in the tournament? Everybody was so confused. They never even heard of our school. So it was a really big deal for the university to get there and get that kind of exposure. And then I think by now people kind of have heard of Colgate. If they're college basketball fans, they've kind of heard of us because of the success. But it was a huge, huge, huge deal my freshman year. And we were beating Tennessee. We were a 15 seed. They were a 2 seed. And we were winning kind of late in the second half. I think there was kind of 8 minutes left in the second half, and we took the lead. So it was a really, really great game too. Kind of unforgettable experience.
And the whole crowd, right, shifts to the underdog.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as they smell blood, that it's a possibility. Yeah. Everybody wants to say they were at that upset.
It was incredible. You're completely right. So Tennessee, I would say, made up probably a third of the crowd, because there's 4 teams that are playing, on that day in that arena. So we were probably like 1/8 of the crowd. We had the smallest section, but very loud, I'll say. Tennessee had a really big section, but the other 2 schools, I can't even remember who it was. I think LSU maybe. But I remember when we took the lead, everybody was going crazy for us, except obviously the Tennessee fans. So you're 100% right. It completely shifts when the underdog is winning.
That is the dream. My high school career was the end of my career. But that is, if you've got kids, maybe that's it. I could care less about an NBA career. Yeah, I'm sure that's fun. You make a lot of money. But for me, like playing in the NCAA tournament, that's it. Like that is the pinnacle as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And I remember my freshman year, I was standing on the court when we were playing Tennessee. And I remember like really soaking it in, thinking, there's a really good chance I'm never going to do this again. So I'm just going to soak in this atmosphere and everything. I was like looking at my parents and just trying to really be present. And then little did I know I was going to be there 3 more times. So I just count myself so lucky to be a part of that program and have been able to experience that so much. I definitely don't take it for granted.
I couldn't imagine how great of an experience that would be. All right. I want to make sure we get to what we call the lightning round. So I will put up an imaginary amount of time on the clock.
Let's do it.
I will ask the questions rapidly. Your answers do not have to be rapid.
Okay.
Take as much time as you need. So we will put the time on the clock, and we will go to question number 1.
1.
Who is the best offensive player you ever had to guard? It could be high school, college, or pro.
Wow. I would say Tyus Battle. He played at Syracuse. So at Colgate, we play Syracuse every year, like a big matchup.
Rocking the rim. Tyus Battle brings them out of their seats.
I'll turn it over there. Orange on the run. Battle.
And my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, we played a guy named Tyus Battle. He's actually from New Jersey, and I kind of know him, but he would always, I felt like I was always matched up with him, and he would always kill me. He was just a mid-range guy, could elevate over me and score. So yeah, Tyus Battle, not in the NBA, but probably the best scorer I played against.
Well, I would say it's almost unfair. You know, obviously I'm just playing pickup ball now, and I tell these guys, like, you either can go inside or 3-pointers, right? Don't make me, I don't want to guard this mid-range stuff too. Like, that's
exactly
not fair.
Exactly.
What do they call it? The 3-level score. Those guys are always tough to deal with.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Number 2.
2.
Have you ever heard Frank Sinatra's song, New York, New York, at a bar commonly called The Jug?
I have. That's
I suspected.
That's actually, well, I don't know if you know the story, but that's what they play when they're trying to get everybody to leave and go home. So
I told you, I did my research, man.
Yep, The Jug. That's that's real. There's real history with The Jug in Hamilton, New York. That's a famous spot for sure.
So is it pretty exclusively a college bar? Or
it's exclusively a college bar. You definitely won't find any faculty or adults usually in that place. Definitely not.
Right. And in Hamilton, is there any other industry there? Is it all pretty much the university? And
yeah, I think it's just the school and then kind of just a small college town, but really cool town. I love Hamilton. It's always gonna have a special place in my heart for sure.
Well, that question could have been a bust. I'm glad that you were there. And as I understand, they only play that song as the bar is closing.
Yeah, so I shouldn't know the song, but I guess I'm admitting that I do.
That's awesome. All right. Number 3.
3.
You are the number 5 all-time scorer at Colgate, according to Wikipedia. Can you name at least 2 of the 4 that are ahead of you on the list?
I can. So Will Raymond should be one of them. He is that right?
Ding, ding, ding.
So I played with Will. We're still really close friends. Great kid. He's playing in France right now. And then another one, actually, we share the same name, Tucker Neal. I think he's number 1.
Oh, I didn't even have to give you the hint. He is number 1.
So Tucker Neal, yeah, he's a legend. He's up in the rafters there. Is it Donald Foyle top 5? I don't even know if he is.
No, he's number 3.
Okay, so I got 3.
Oh, you're getting bonus points now.
I don't know the 4th one. I don't.
You know, this is it's pretty old school. So Mike Ferrara, this was like 1978 through 81.
I'm not familiar with that one, but
1,763 points.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. Nice job on that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I got my Colgate history. That's pretty good.
I thought I might be able to trip you up on this one. Okay, we'll see if we trip you up on this one. So you're playing in Finland, right?
Yes.
They're on the metric system.
4.
How many centimeters tall are you?
I'm 198. 198 centimeters.
Well, according to the website, I saw 196. So we'll have to do a tiebreak.
Maybe
so
I
6'5".
Maybe I grew a little bit since I've been out here.
Right.
I'm pretty sure on the roster sheet here I'm 198, but maybe I'm wrong. Could be 196.
Oh no! I'm pretty sure that's right. This was some bootleg site that may have not been fully up to date and was probably generated by AI.
There you go. Like everything is.
All right, number 5.
5.
Last question. We'll get a little more serious on this one. Will NIL ultimately be good or bad for college basketball?
Wow. Now that is a very nuanced question. I think I think it's really difficult to say because I think that there are going to be positives, of course, which is that student athletes can make money off their name, image, and likeness, and hopefully, in some cases, put their families in better positions, put their future in a better position, all those things. So that's really good, obviously. But I am seeing, as I'm sure most people are seeing, a lot of challenges that are coming with how big NIL has gotten and how important it has gotten in terms of the transfer portal and the recruiting process and all those things that I think ultimately isn't good for the game. And I think it's really changing college basketball in some negative ways. So I'm mixed on it. For the individual players, I think it's good. For actually, in some cases, actually not good. I think there are some cases where it's not great. But for college basketball as a whole, I'm a little bit more skeptical, actually.
I like the idea it's keeping guys around a little longer and giving them an avenue. And maybe there's some kids that can just play college basketball and tuck away a couple $100,000 and then go do whatever they want to do in life. That's good. But yeah, all the movement, like it used to be, I could put away my phone, after the season was over. And now we spend 3 months going back and forth on text about who's this and who's in the portal and what happened here and what's our team going to look like. So
and I just think
I don't like.
I just think money being the biggest factor in a kid, choosing or deciding on a school is, I think that's just really kind of problematic in terms of their basketball development, because in a lot of cases they end up going to a school just because of the money, and it doesn't turn out to be a good situation for the player, and then they don't have a great year, and then they're back in the portal the next year. So that's the kind of stuff that scares me a little bit, is how is for the schools, how hard it now is to build a program. I'll quickly use the Patriot League, my conference, as an example. And this might not have so much to do with NIL, but just like the transferring stuff in general, is that, there are a lot of schools in the Patriot League that have some really good players. The teams aren't that good yet, but they have, let's say, 1 or 2 really good players, and those kids will have a good season. And instead of staying and trying to build a program and maybe in their junior or senior year, they're good enough to compete for a championship, they just leave. They just go to the next school that whatever, they can make some more money, or they just want to get out of that situation. And the reason that Colgate has gotten so good is what didn't happen all in 1 year. It was because of years of building up a program. And I just think that that's happening less now. I think that is more difficult to do.
I would agree with that too. Part of what I always enjoyed about Creighton is being the underdog and the small school, and that was part of the fun. And now, right, you get a couple of good players and then they get plucked. You can't build a 4-year roster. All right, we're going to do a bonus question. Now you are on the younger side, so you may not have an answer.
Okay.
But you are from New Jersey. So is it Bruce Springsteen or Bon Jovi?
I think, Bruce is more iconic, like Asbury Park and all those things. But I actually grew up, my mom was a big Bon Jovi fan, so I grew up with a lot of Bon Jovi. I kind of grew up with both of them, I guess. Like, I'm a Bruce fan too. So it's hard for me to choose. I would say Bruce Springsteen is the more iconic New Jersey musician. So that'll be my answer.
Right. My only experience is I used to work in New Rochelle.
Yeah.
Rochelle Park, like Passaic, that area. I worked for a company that was headquartered up there, and I'd go up there periodically. And if you've never experienced being in a New Jersey bar when Bon Jovi comes on, you're missing something.
Yeah,
it's interesting, to say the least.
Exactly. Yeah, agreed.
All right, excellent lightning round. So let's. I do want to get to what you're doing in youth basketball on your YouTube channel. But let's hit about what's going on now playing professionally in Finland.
Tilanteen hyvin. Nyt on kiire. Richardson vetää summerisoidessa laakapaltaan. Tucker, Richardson, ero 6 pisteen.
Okay.
So similar to what we talked about before, again, you're on the younger side for stayonthecourt.com. Are you playing twice a week typically during the regular season?
During the regular season, it's once or twice. Sometimes it's just once a week, actually. And so I got here in late August, and April 23rd, and we're in the playoffs now. So it's a really long season. I would say that's the biggest difference that I've noticed from playing professionally to from playing in college, obviously.
Right. Now, is that unusual? So, I mean, obviously I'm not familiar with all European leagues, but yeah, when I was looking at your schedule, it looked like you guys were really protracted out. You had a long season. And I didn't know if that was normal for European basketball in general, or if Finland was a special case where they like basketball more than most countries, so they want to run longer.
No, that's normal. I actually think, from what I've heard from other players and what I hear about other leagues, I actually got over here a little bit later than some people get here early August. That's when their training camp starts, preseason starts. And then, I have some of my friends that are playing over here haven't even started their playoffs yet. So if anything, I've heard that Finland is actually on the shorter side. That, most of the players in the league right now are already home because they haven't made it as far as we have in the playoffs. Whereas in other leagues, they haven't even started the playoffs yet. So yeah, no matter where you go, it's going to be a really, really long season for sure.
This podcast may not be out when yours is released, but I had his name is Paul Vitelli on the podcast, and he played for Yale and then played 3 years in Italy, and just had some really interesting stories about mafia connections and playing in Italy and a lot of things that went in. But I thought it was really interesting to figure out, how he got there. So, if you're listening to this, go to the podcast feed and look for the episode with Paul Vitelli. But how did you get lined up playing in Finland?
So my 5th year college basketball season ended, and I knew I wanted to play professionally. So I began kind of seeking out an agent. In reality, they kind of were seeking me out just because of the career that I had. But one of my friends, actually Will Raymond, the guy that is ahead of me
right.
on the points list at Colgate, he put his agent in contact with me, and I actually ended up signing with the same agent, and kind of just started going through the process of waiting to hear about what teams were interested over in Europe. Got some interest from some leagues around, but it's really hard as a rookie. I think they have a hard time trusting rookies, especially from small conferences, small Division I conferences. So there weren't that many options, but I kind of knew from the beginning that Finland is a really good starter league, or it's a really good league, and it's just a good league to start your career in, because if you do well, then you have the opportunity to play in higher level leagues right away. So I knew that kind of the money wasn't going to be that great, and it wasn't going to be maybe the quintessential like living in Spain
right.
First year experience. But at the same time, Finland, this team, BC Nokia, so I'm in Nokia, Finland right now, they were interested in me. And I just knew it was going to be a good first year experience, at least a solid one. Like I knew that there wasn't a high risk with coming to this league. So yeah, my agent kind of worked through and built up a contract, and I signed to come to Finland. And I have to say, like, my first year has gone about as well as I could have ever expected. Yeah, there's been some challenges here and there, but overall I've had a really great experience and have great teammates, great coaches. Like a lot of the things that you hear, these kind of horror stories about playing overseas, and luckily so far, I haven't really faced any of that.
Yeah, so I don't think he's doing this podcast anymore, but Jahins Managa is a Creighton graduate, and I think he's still playing overseas, or maybe he just ended his career. But I just, hearing his stories, it doesn't sound like he started out in a situation as good as what you have.
Yeah.
Based on some of the stories that he would tell on his podcast. So what would be a progression? Would you have a good season this year and then everything opens up, or is it like NBA where no, you're locked in? It's a 3-year contract.
No, so I'm only in a 1-year contract. Obviously, kind of keeping all options open in terms of whatever. There's potential to go anywhere, even to maybe come back, basically. But the logical progression, if you have a good year in a place like Finland, is, from what I've heard, obviously I'm still new to this, and the season's not over yet, so it's not like I'm talking to teams yet, but the logical progression sounds like a place like Germany or Germany. It's called the Bundesliga, which is a pretty good league. Place like Poland has a pretty high level league. Even like a second division Italian or French team, something like that. So basically, if you do really well in this league, you can kind of jump to the next level. You're not going to jump like all the way up to some of the best leagues, but you can kind of work your way up, and hopefully the money would be a little better, those kind of things. But again, I'm not too worried about it right now. I think just trying to focus on finishing out the season on a high note, hopefully win a championship would be really great, because I think winning actually is valued really highly here, even more than statistics and things. Like if you're on a really good team that ends up winning a championship, teams at the next level are going to look for that. So yeah. If you have this is one of those leagues where if you do well, you can definitely move up pretty quickly.
What do the crowds look like? Are you playing in 3,000 seat arenas? Is it 12,000? Are they hockey arenas on Monday and then they make them into basketball? Like, what are the type of venues you're playing in?
Well, here you go. This is a good one for you. So this year they are building a new arena in Nokia. So this is kind of an intermediate year where they tore down the old one or building a new one. So we're actually playing in a high school gym for the year. They've done a good job at it. It's really nice. So they've done a good job, but it's just small. So I don't even know how many seats it has, under 1,000. But our games get pretty loud and we get good crowds. Because it's so small, usually it's pretty sold out. But some of probably the biggest arenas in this league are, I don't know, 3,000 to 4,000. Nothing crazy, nothing too big. So it's
but if you're putting the right number of people in there, if they're filled, that's fun.
Yeah, crowd. I mean, the fans are fun. Like at the game last night, obviously a road playoff game, it was getting really loud in there. Not for us, obviously, for the other team, but
right.
Fans they're passionate. They get pretty loud. They like basketball here. Maybe not quite as passionate as like Serbia or some of those other places, but
right.
The Finnish people, they know how to get loud.
Do they serve vodka?
I don't think they serve vodka, but they definitely serve alcohol and beer and stuff. Right. But I don't know if you can just maybe you could, people probably sneak it in here, but.
Well, I'm sure. There's people bringing little sneaky Pete's.
Yeah.
Oh, do I even want to ask this question? Yeah, I'm going to ask the question. So are there groupies? I mean, are there super fans?
Yeah, there's super fans.
Your eyes told it all right there. So if you're not on the YouTube channel, you may want to go to the YouTube channel to see.
I think I was laughing because, well, groupies, no, not really, not in the Chorus Liga in Finland, and especially just the team that we have. Once you get to, if you were playing in like the Euro League or one of those really top leagues, like I mean they're those guys are like celebrities. Here, I mean, people know us around town. Like we'll be walking around. Sometimes someone will ask for a picture in the grocery store or whatever. But it's pretty chill. Like after the games, we get to sign a bunch of the kids' like shoes or shirts and stuff, which is really cool. So they're passionate fan bases, but nothing too crazy. We're definitely not some kind of, we're not that recognizable, I guess.
But kind of like we talked about in the when you're at Colgate, what does a game day look like now for when you're playing in Finland? I guess you did talk about how the warm-ups are a little bit different. Are you largely on your own until you get to the gym, or are you hanging out with a couple guys that are on your team? Or
so we have, even for road or home games, we always have shoot around at 10 a.m. So we have to get to the gym around 10 a.m. We have about an hour of shoot around where we get a lot of shots up. We go through the other team's plays, do a bunch of scout and stuff. And then from then until we have to be at the gym for the game, we're completely on our own. So I come back, usually relax for a little bit, try and take a really long nap. That's like one of the things I love to do on game day is take a 2-hour nap. I know a lot of NBA players take 3-hour naps, so right. I don't feel that bad about doing it, but I love taking a long nap. And then we'll also have lunch too, obviously. So we'll after shoot around, we'll have lunch around 11:30, 12. So it's kind of early, but that's fine. So we eat, and then I'll come back, take my long nap, maybe eat something small before I head over to the gym. And then yeah, we're just at the gym, start our warm up, and we go from there. So nothing too crazy. It's pretty chill. We're pretty, as a professional, you kind of have to learn how to take care of yourself, I guess.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to dig into. Just take a few minutes, then we're going to move on to some of your youth basketball and your YouTube channel. So, what do your meals look? Let's call it just an off day. Maybe you have practice. What do your meals look like? Are you doing? I listen to things with LeBron or Blake Griffin, and they're timing their smoothies, and they have the morning smoothie and the afternoon smoothie. Plus, obviously you guys are burning a lot of calories.
Right.
What does a typical day look like, or maybe you have practice? Like what does your food look like?
So it's really nice because our practices are very consistent. I guess except like a day like today where we just played yesterday, then we'll have practice later in the afternoon. But basically every day we have practice, start practice at 10, and we're at the gym from around 10 to 1, whatever we're doing. We could be watching a long film session. We could be having a lift, obviously an actual practice, getting shots up, whatever. Basically that 3-hour window is when you have to put aside everything and focus on the team. And then the rest of the time is on your own, basically. So in the morning, I get up. I try and get up fairly early and kind of get started, get going. But I make myself breakfast every day. Something my sister gave me this recipe, and I try and eat really healthily. I'm not like crazy about what I eat, but I'm also pretty conscious that I know I need to eat healthy and eat a lot of food. But I make these like banana pancakes almost every day, and they're not like normal pancakes. It's literally just banana and like mashed banana and 3 eggs, and then and then I put that in the pan and with some cinnamon, put that in the pan, and then put some pecans in it. So that's a pretty healthy breakfast. It's not like real pancakes, I guess. That it sounds like it would be unhealthy, but it's pretty healthy.
So you're mixing bananas and
eggs.
Interesting.
And and some cinnamon, put some pecans on it as it's cooking in the pan, flip it. And then I put honey on it, like instead of syrup. And I love it. I make it almost every day. I'm so glad my sister gave me that recipe at the beginning of the year. And then after practice, we get to go to a lunch spot. So our lunches are paid for. Like I don't make my own lunch. We go as a team, and it's basically just kind of like a buffet style lunch spot where there's usually multiple options. It almost is like a really small college dining hall where you can kind of just go and eat. So that's good, load up on food after practice. And then for dinner, I'm also on my own. So I try and make food as much as possible. I keep it pretty simple. I'm not like a great chef, but I keep it pretty simple and pretty healthy. And yeah, that's usually how my food goes. I've gotten a pretty good routine with it, and I think been able to save a lot of money. I try not to eat out too much, make my own food all the time.
All right. So we got the meals down. What about, do you use cryotherapy, red light therapy, PEMF meds, anything that kind of is alternative modalities to stay healthy?
I would just say taking advantage of the sauna culture in Finland, which is definitely a thing. So try and go to the sauna pretty consistently, maybe, once a week with some of the other Finnish guys. They love it here. And actually we've been doing they call it the lake sauna. So you go to the lake, and you go in the freezing water and then get back in the sauna and go back and forth 4 or 5 times, over the course of an hour or so. And they absolutely love it here. It's hilarious. I mean, it's such a huge thing here. So I'm probably the only one of 2 imports or Americans that take advantage of it. The other guys aren't really that into it, but I really enjoy it. And then, other than that, I don't do anything crazy. When I'm home, I'm sure my mom will get me on some red light stuff or whatever. My mom's really into that, but yeah, I also obviously have my Whoop.
I think we both found out we're Whoop band brothers.
Yeah, we're Whoop guys, so I like to track my recovery and all that. But I'm definitely serious about my sleep. I try to go to bed early, get a good night's sleep every night. Take my vitamins, all those things. But yeah, nothing too crazy yet. maybe.
Well, at age you're 23,
24.
24, yeah, you still have a few more years before it becomes a little more important.
Yes, exactly.
As the years wear on.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So yeah, I had it on my list here to ask about sauna culture in Finland. So we definitely hit that. Um, let's talk. Let's shift more into what you guys are doing with hacking hoops and your YouTube channel. Can you kind of explain? Because your YouTube channel is substantial at this point, as I understand. I've checked out a couple of videos on it.
Yeah, so when I got to Finland in August, I'm the type of person that I don't like to just do nothing in my free time. I want to kind of be doing something productive. And I knew I was going to have a lot of free time. So, all right, well, maybe I'll just start a YouTube channel. Why not? I started doing some vlogs where I would walk around my town and just for people back home, just kind of walk around and talk about what I was seeing and how practices were going and stuff. And I would just post it up there and for my friends and family back home to watch. And then one day I just made more of a sit down video that was just talking about some of my experiences and talking, at and towards the younger players. And that video did pretty well. And then I just kind of kept making those kind of videos more and more. And yeah, the YouTube channel is kind of just taken off. It's really crazy to think about that. Like you said, it's done pretty well. I'm over 20,000 subscribers now, which is absolutely insane. I mean, I was talking about this the other day. If someone had told me that I would have 1,000 subscribers by this time, I still would have been shocked when I first started the channel because I had no idea what I was doing or how it would go. But some of those videos really took off and people have responded to them. And I've gotten a lot of really great messages and DMs from younger players just talking about their stories or asking questions or talking about how a video helped them. So that has really been rewarding throughout this process. And so, so hacking hoops, which is kind of the next step and the next thing that we're kind of working on. So it's actually a project that me and my mom are both working on together. And we're trying to build basically a community space for players and parents that are going through the basketball journey, that are trying to find information about whether it's recruiting or just anything in general with going through that basketball process of, mostly high school players. And so, we're trying to build out a community and it's still in the beta stages. We're still obviously working on it, but yeah, it's been really fun and enjoyable to go through that process with my mom and see how it goes. Obviously, when I get home in the summer, we'll have more time to spend together working on it and hopefully get something really out there this summer, which I will, once the community space is finally ready, I'll definitely be promoting that on my YouTube channel. So I kind of use that YouTube audience and as a way to promote this new community space that I think can be really, really beneficial for younger players. It's something that, I talked to my mom a lot about this, that we wish we had when I was in high school. So that's the goal. That's basically what we're trying to do right now.
And on the YouTube channel, is there a particular video that went
viral?
There's different levels of viral, right? There's Mr. Beast viral, and then there's the rest of us. Was there one that got more views than you thought that you were kind of surprised?
There's been a bunch that have gotten a lot more. I mean, I think there's 4 videos on there now that are over 100,000 views, which pretty mind blowing. But there was one that definitely went kind of viral, and it was, I think the title of it was 7 outdated basketball beliefs to leave behind heading into 2024 or something like that.
Right.
And I think after 3 days after posting it, it already had 50,000 views or something, and it was just going kind of bonkers. And then the other ones that are over 100,000 were more of a slow line to that number. And
right.
But yeah, so I've learned a lot through the YouTube process, and I've learned not to chase viral videos. Basically, just kind of keep consistent with stuff that you're interested in, stuff that you think is important to your viewers, and don't worry about whether a video gets 100,000 views or 5,000 views or 10,000, whatever it might be. So that's what I've been trying to do, and I think the one thing I can get a lot better at is just being consistent with posting videos. I kind of go up and down with being the motivation levels and things, and especially playing right now. I'm in the playoffs, and it's just hard for me to get my mind around all the energy and effort it takes to make a video, because it is a lot that goes into that.
Yes.
So yeah, but when I get back home in the summer, I know I'm going to be back ready to get going again, cranking with it. It's just been so enjoyable for me. I really do love it and have developed a real passion for making content for those younger players.
Well, I would say based on even that one title you told me, if the whole basketball thing doesn't work out, might be your next profession is optimizing YouTube headlines.
It's crazy how much I've learned from watching. I love to say this. Watching YouTube videos has taught me so much about YouTube, and it's kind of, that I guess that makes sense. Just doing as much research as I can about how to do titles, how to do thumbnails. I have a thumbnail guy. I say this college student who helps me make my thumbnails. He just reached out to me and said, I think your thumbnails could use some work, and I'm a graphic design major, and I would love to help you. And so he just started making videos. So it's little connections like that has been really cool throughout this process, for sure.
Yep, and then it grows and grows and grows.
Exactly.
Little by little. You said it's in beta, but I believe hacking-hoops.com is the website for you're going to be housing a lot of this work. And then we'll have links to all this in the show notes for sure, with your YouTube channel, and probably we'll select out a couple of other viral videos that we've talked about, and we'll link them there, as well as hackinghoops.com. If there is a 7th grader, 8th grader out there who feels like, they are maybe where you were, where you said, you thought you were a good school player. Do you have a couple of kind of closing tips of what you might tell them, or tips to develop their game, or things that were important to you at that point that kept you pushing forward?
Yeah, I would say, if you have goals and aspirations of playing college basketball, which I think is a really good goal to have if you're a young basketball player and you have a passion for it, it's like, yeah, go for it. I would say focus on the biggest thing I've learned, and what I talk about in almost every one of my videos, is focusing on the process of things and not the result, whether that's on a micro or macro level. So for instance, over the course of a game, focusing on the process of getting good shots, moving on to the next play, all that stuff, individual plays, as opposed to the results of whether you made or missed a shot. And then on a bigger scale, focus on the process of getting better every day, of doing what you can to improve as a player, as a person, all those things, as opposed to, am I going to play Division I basketball versus Division III basketball? Or am I going to become a starter on my team in 8 months? I think that's really important for young players or young people in general. And whatever you do, is really focus on the process of things. I always say, I think one of the biggest reasons I was able, or I don't know how to explain it, but I was very naive in high school, meaning I didn't really understand what it took to play college basketball. I didn't know how good you had to be. I just kind of loved the game, and I loved working at it and training and getting better. And I think that really helped me. I didn't worry too much about where I was going to end up. I just worried about, today after my high school basketball practice, I'm going to, go to the gym again for 2 more hours and work out, because I just love it. It wasn't because I wanted to play Colgate. So I think that really helped me. And I think that can definitely be something that helps younger players, is just, if you love basketball, if you have a passion for it, just work on it every day. Just try and get better every day in some way. And whether you do play in college or not, that will make you a better person no matter what. So that's kind of the message I like to send on my channel. And I think it's resonated with a lot of people, actually.
Well, I think that's a common theme that I'm hearing. So I'm getting more and more into coaching, just because I've been coaching my son's teams, YMCA, now in a little more competitive league, and I love it.
Yeah.
At this point. So I don't know that it's ever going to be my profession, but I really enjoy it. So I study it. And I think what you're saying lines up with what I'm hearing a lot of coaches, or what I consider good coaches, say is develop the love for the game first, and then a lot of the other things will take care of themselves. And so my kind of metric is, how many of my kids come back and play next year, right? You never want to be somebody's last basketball coach.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same. I think it's the same with like YouTubing, podcasting, anything. Like when I was getting into YouTube, I was trying to get advice from more successful YouTubers. You know, the piece of advice I never heard was become a YouTuber so you can get 1 million subscribers. What they always said was become a YouTuber because you love making videos and you love creating content for people. And then don't worry. And then the rest of it, like you said, will kind of take care of itself. So I think it goes with anything you do in life, really, is focus on the process. Don't focus on the results.
That is great advice. So I know that you had a game yesterday, practice today. You haven't had your dinner yet. We know you're deep in a playoff battle, so we don't want to be the reason that you get off course. So we really appreciate you being here, digging into what happened in high school, playing at Blair Academy, Colgate, talking to somebody who's living, as far as I'm concerned, the dream of playing professionally overseas. I really appreciate you taking the time, especially during the playoffs, to share this with us. Is there anything else you'd like to leave the stayonthecourt.com audience with?
No, I just want to thank you as well. It's always fun kind of reminiscing and going through that whole story. And again, I think it's helpful for younger players and parents really to hear a journey, a player's journey that wasn't like some top 10 recruit, but had to kind of go through it. So I appreciate you having me on as well. It's just great to have to converse about these things for sure.
I agree. And I now know when I visit Hamilton, New York, the clubhouse, the jug, even though I'll be by far the oldest person.
Well, if you want, you just go in there and say you're an alum, and then it's less weird. Then you're fine. Just be like, "Oh, I'm an alum. Right. I'm just reminiscing on."
I'll stop by the gift shop first. They're on campus.
There you go. Get
myself a couple of things. I really, again, appreciate you being on. This was great. For the rest of the Stay on the Court community, we'll talk to you all later.